Quentin is so generous with his time, and he's such a giving person. I even Googled him on, I wonder what Quentin is up to. And there's a picture on the internet, and he had a chainsaw in a samurai position. And I wondered, God, what's he doing? You know, and the setting was at his church, and I guess it was either, you know, he was doing some volunteer work or some vandalism, I'm not sure, but he was probably doing some volunteer work, and that was just, you know, that was just the way Quentin always was refereeing and doing everything he could at tournaments. Now, when we had our junior nationals in 1992, I can say almost everything went very, very well. We're really, really proud of it. And it was an incredible team performance because we had everyone working. But a little known fact was that we had contracted with the school district for 6 mats. And these were 6 whole mats, wrestling mats. And the school district delivered us 6 sections of mats, which they come in 10-foot sections, and so we had just enough mats for two whole judo mats. And you know, we got a hold of some of the school district people and made it clear that, you know, that there was a misunderstanding in the mat situation, but this caused a tremendous problem because TR had his crew there. Some of the crew were youngsters, and their parents were coming. They weren't, you know, obviously the mats would be delivered late in the night, and you know, though you're so well organized, you probably never had any problems like this. But I was at the tournament headquarters, and TR was in charge of the tournament site, and he called me up and said, you know, Phil, we got a problem, you know, and I said, well, you know, I've got the coaches meeting and the pairings and you know, everything going on. We just finished weigh-ins. I can't, you're going to have to figure out how to tackle this one on your own. And like a good coach, that Friday night, you know, Quentin Thompson was there at the Rockford Metro Center, scoping out the mats, scoping out the competition site, and he went over to TR and he said, you know, have you got a problem, TR? And I said, yeah, the mats, you know, our mats, they're scheduled, they're going to bring them here, they promised us, you know, but it's going to be a long, long night. And Quentin Thompson volunteered his team to spend the night with TR and our people that were left, you know, to make sure that our mats were put together and put together right, and so that they would be perfectly prepared for our players on that first day of competition. And, you know, for that, all of us in the NCIGA will be, you know, forever indebted to Quentin Thompson. And I think that that little story is an excellent characterization of the man, because that's Quentin. There's a couple of little facts about the NCIGA that I want to, you know, toss in here, just because we are very proud, and if you don't believe it, just ask any one of us. The NCIGA has represented the U.S. in international competition in 5 of 7 continents, in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa, and really proud of that. some of the other things that have been mentioned by Ross, but we have another thing that I did want to mention is, some of our activities with Sambo. As a coach, and sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. That's the nature of politics, and we were a group that was really hungry for lots of action. And in 1975, Doug Hall hosted the first Sambo National Championships in Phoenix, Arizona, and invited us. So we went down there, and we learned something about Sambo that Jim Bregman has said every time you listen to his presentation on the 1964 Olympics, and that is that there were 4 divisions, and the U.S. took 1 bronze medal, and the Russians, of course, 2 bronze medals in every division, took 4 bronze medals. They took the 4 bronze medals with 4 Sambo players, and that told me that these 2 sports are virtually interchangeable, and that's one reason why we got into it, just to get a chance to get some more international experience and so between 1979 and what was my last trip overseas in 2007, we've had some nice trips, and we've been able to take a lot of people over overseas and won a few medals, and Judo, of course, is our first love, but I would certainly encourage, if you ever hear of anyone who just can't get enough, Judo. It's a fun sport. There's one thing I wanted to mention. Back when we hosted the 1992 Nationals, what really inspired me to host that is, back in 1971, I was with Doug Hall and at Arizona State University, but I worked out with Doug at the Phoenix YMCA, and he hosted the 1971 National Championships for the USGA Junior Nationals, and I was really amazed that it was well organized, and I said, this is something I want to do someday when we have the time. Phil Porter came over, I don't know how many times. He came down from Sacramento, and he gave incredible clinics to all the scorers and timers, and to all the referees, and to all the players, and really had our state organization well prepped to host it. And he was a critical factor in showing me how much preparation we had to do. The little stint as vice president kind of taught me something about the USGA that I think is really important. So I'm just going to throw this out. When Phil took over as president, one thing that he eliminated that I think was an incredible function for the USGA were the standing committees, that when Bill Horby and George Harris and Joan and Judy were on the board, they always maintained those committees. And that's how I broke into the national scene. I was on the women's committee, and I was on the coaching certification committee. That's how we developed future leaders of the USGA. And when Phil opted to eliminate those, I think that was a sad development. And when I became vice president, I asked Phil, I said, a lot of nonprofit organizations will operate where the vice president will, the president's the front man, and the vice president will work with all these standing committees. Why don't you let me do that? Why don't you let me get all these going? you know, and I don't know why